Yeah, true. I think we're the same size now. Oh,
Say
we're live.
that.
Oh,
I
live.
think
Are
we
we?
are live. Yes, three,
Yes,
two,
we
one.
are. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the, I don't know what it is, maybe the 10th iteration.
Oh, probably the 10th. Yes, probably.
Yeah, with a special working from home version of the Hola Entrepreneurs. We're very excited to host you guys today from our houses. Pau, where are you?
I am in my house in Cremorne. Oops,
Oh,
now everyone knows where I live.
You're gonna get a lot of entrepreneurs
Yeah.
gifts to your house, right? Well, I won't say where I live, but I'm at my house as well. If you hear a baby crying, that's just one of the things that you get from working from home. So can everyone see the deck yet?
Not yet. Scott can put it in for us. Yes, it's there.
Great, thank you. So yeah, today we wanted to have a little bit of another session of these All Entrepreneurs and share with you guys some of the tips that we as part of Google and the Academy of Entrepreneurs have thought that are important for you guys entrepreneurs to virtually engage with your audience. So Scott, can you do the next slide? So before we start, we first want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet and recognize their continuing connection to the land, waters, and community. I pay my respects to them and their cultures and to the elders past, present, and emerging. Thank you. So first let's start with talking a little bit about the background of this event. Scott, you might want to swap between slides with your keyboard so that we don't get the little gray box covering the content. Thank you. Can we go back to the Hola slide? Thank you. So yeah, first of all, like a little bit about Hola. So we are the Latin American and Hispanic community at Google. I've been leading Hola in Australia for about 5 years now. We have about 100 Latin American Hispanic community at Google. And yeah, we just we deeply believe in sharing the knowledge and the resources that we have as Google with Latin American entrepreneurs. And in this particular iteration of the Hola Entrepreneurs event, we are joining our forces with the BGN. And I'll pass it to Scott for him to tell you guys a little bit about what the BGN is.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Hello.
So my name is Scott Joseph. I am a Googler in Sydney. And so I'm helping to co-lead this event. So my background is I'm from Google New York, born and raised a New Yorker. I've been at Google for about 8 years now, and I was in ads. Even in Google New York, I was very active in a community called the Black Googler Network. And so I specifically loved helping out with small business owner events, focused on underrepresented backgrounds. Loved bringing people in from the community and doing talks on how to integrate free Google technology into a small business. And about 2 years ago, I moved to Google Sydney. Very excited to be here. I've been here for a while now, getting PR. And I'm also the co-lead of the Black Googler Network in Australia and New Zealand. A little bit about us. Only been existed for a little while now, but we're trying to have more events, bringing up our membership. Our three focuses this year are about the 3 C's: community, culture, and careers. We do a lot of stuff internally related to these, and especially when it comes to community, we're trying to reach out to you all. And we're really excited to have you here. Thanks for joining us in this live stream. I feel like I'm in what do they call the influencer. I think that's the word that people use. But anyway, let me pass it back. Let me pass it to Kike and Paula.
Cool. Do you want to show everyone your logo?
Oh, I love the logo.
Very cool.
I love that we're United Forces. I was speaking to some of my friends this morning, and they're like, "Oh, minority groups." I like, we're the majority. Between Latin Americans and the Black community, we are the majority, and we've united our forces. So I think it's amazing what we're doing. It's the first time that we unite our forces between the three, right?
Absolutely, yes. And hopefully not the last time. But I think this time we do have more people than usual. So I want to pass it on to Pau, because we've been partnering with the Academy of Entrepreneurs for a couple of years now, and we always get amazing content, amazing people to come to these events from the Academy of Entrepreneurs. And I just think it's worth you guys hearing a little bit about them. So Pau, why don't you tell us about yourself and this amazing academy that you're running?
Thank you. Scott, can you press the next slide for us, please? So Academy of Entrepreneurs basically started with a personal dream. I just didn't understand why people weren't succeeding. Students couldn't find a job, companies couldn't find talent, and most importantly, entrepreneurs were failing, which I didn't understand. How is it possible, if information is free, thanks to Google, that people aren't connecting the right dots and the right people to find the tools and best steps for them to succeed? So from there was this fire in me that I'm like, we need to find a solution. We need to find a solution. So my dream was to connect entrepreneurs so that future entrepreneurs could succeed based on the success of previous entrepreneurs. And interestingly, Kike, who is hosting today's event, was one of the first entrepreneurs that I contacted, because he had been an entrepreneur for over 10 years. And I'm like, give me the biggest mistakes you've made. Tell me the biggest lessons that you've made that you're grateful for, and the things that you see that are upcoming trends that we can rewire future entrepreneurs to know about so that they can succeed faster and in a sustainable manner. So this is how it started. And the dream of interviewing 100 entrepreneurs to figure out the entrepreneurial journey, thanks to Kike and some other friends of ours, ended up becoming 1,000 entrepreneurs that got interviewed from 51 nationalities. And then we went to the Australian government with the idea of starting the world's first accredited incubator, which means that anyone comes with an idea and will incubate your idea, but you also get a qualification at the end. So Scott, if you turn on to the next slide. So over the last 4.5 years, we've educated students from 58 nationalities around the world, and we're no longer just an accredited incubator. We've got courses for entrepreneurs, intrapreneurs, online, for corporates. We've got short certificates. We've got self-paced programs. We've got accelerators. We've got internship programs and startup study tours. So we've now got this global network and lots of offices around the world, and an incredible team and the most incredible legends. We call our students legends. We've got the most incredible legends changing the world. And what I love about the work that every single legend does, it's all about impact. So we've created Academy of Entrepreneurs to have an impact, but it's beautiful to see how every single legend is building a business to create impact, whether they're enrolling in a course that is 15 minutes long or a course that is 2 years. So yes, so thank you, Kike and the Google family or familia, for always being there to support us and sharing your latest tips, tricks, and tools so that our community can succeed faster, thanks to the Google tools and skills and knowledge as well. So Scott, if you could put on the next slide, please. So this is our contact details. So if you send us an email to info@AEstudy and you just ask for me, Paula Mills, which you've got here on the screen, you'll automatically get access to me. Send me messages on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and we were going to be here to support you. We do free events every single Tuesday. Just like this one, we do free events for the community, for everybody around the world. And this week we started running programs in Spanish as well, which is perfect timing for this Hola event. So please join our community, boss your future, and let's succeed together. Back to you, Kike.
Thank you very much. That was a hell of an intro, Pau, as usual. And yeah, it's crazy how obviously the Academy and all the work that you've done, how impactful it is for not just the Australian economy, but Latin American entrepreneurs that want to make it in Australia. Like I personally, as you said, I've been an entrepreneur myself, and I can tell you how many times I wished I had a bit of guidance, and like having an academy that dedicates themselves to that and helping entrepreneurs succeed. Very impressive, and congrats. And so to move it on, our next guest, we're going to have Jolene giving us some hot tips on how to engage with your audience. So Jo, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're going to present today?
Awesome. Well, thank you. I'm super excited to be here. My name's Jolene. I am our store operations manager at Google Australia. Been at Google for about just under 8 years now. I actually joined Google within our internal learning development team. And I joined with that team for about 5 years, where I looked after all of our onboarding programs, our soft skill development programs, and looking at program design for our leadership for senior management across Asia Pacific. So I have a huge L&D background. And then 2 years ago, I actually moved into our hardware and devices team, which is what Kike is also on. And so there I actually look after our training and ambassador program strategy across Australia for our Pixel and Nest devices. So that's what I do currently. Previously, I actually have 8 years of experience in HR across fashion retail and investment banking, both in Australia, Germany, and England. So working in Germany, I definitely know what it's like about working in a different culture in a different country where you might not be familiar with the native language as much as your own first language. And I'm hugely passionate about supporting these events. My husband has just recently started his own business as an entrepreneur, and I also do some mentoring with the Fishburners startup in Sydney. So super excited to be here, and I will be sharing with you some learnings that I've had during the last few months about changing our strategy for training into a digital-first one. And I think I might go straight into it, or Kike, do you want to share what else we're talking about today?
Yeah, so after Jolene's tips that she will be sharing very soon, we will also jump into a little bit of I did this training at Google actually that I thought I would share the content with you guys. And like I said, the beauty of working at Google and running Ola is that we'll be able to share some of that content that we get access to internally with you guys. So the purpose of that session is going to be to give you guys some of the tips that non-native English speakers should do when communicating in an English-speaking country or with native English speakers. So obviously I made a couple of mistakes there. You can probably guess English is not my first language, so that training really helped me deliver the message the way that English speakers are meant, or it's most impactful for them, and you'll see some of the differences of why that's important. And but I'll pass it back to Jolene so she can kick off with her content. Thank you.
Cool, let's get into it. So let me take you on to my little journey about working from home at the start of this year. Scott, if you can go to the next slide and click through once. Cool. So this is what my work from home setup looked like back in March, when Google sent us an email saying that we all had to work from home due to the obvious COVID situation. So that's my dog Ralph standing on the table. Obviously he doesn't live there all the time, but for the purpose of the photo, that's where I placed him. And you can see my laptop's there just sitting on an empty box. And there was just all sorts of dog toys on the table and a messy dining table, and that was in my kitchen. So if you go through to the next picture, in April, my work from home space transitioned a little bit. And so I invested in a chair, a proper desk, a lamp, and a second screen, which is a total life changer when it comes to working from home. But I use that in my spare room. So you can see I'm facing a wall looking at some sort of rugby jersey, which wasn't that enthralling for me. And then finally in May, if we go to the next picture, in May, I upgraded, we flipped rooms. So we had a little bit of a work from home project. My husband and I got some artwork happening, and you can see where I'm sitting now today. So I've got a window, there's a bit of a plant and greenery and some nice artwork. So on calls like this, you don't have to look at either my mess or a blank wall. That's a little bit about my journey in working from home. If we go to the next slide, Great. So this is actually what I'm going to be talking about with you today. So I'm going to be sharing with you over the next 15 minutes. I'm going to set the context and talk to you a little bit about my world and the audience that I work with. I'll then walk you through about pivoting our strategy, and then finally ending with the hook and how we landed the success that we did with the change in strategy. So we go to the next slide. Next slide, Scott. Great. So start with the context and the audience. So my role, as I mentioned, as the store operations manager, I look after our training strategy across Australia with our products. So if we think about a time when you walk into a store, it could be a Harvey Norman, a JB Hi-Fi, an Optus, Telstra, etc. kind of store. You might be going in to shop for, let's say, a mobile phone. Your expectation when you walk into that store is that you would be greeted with a retail sales assistant, or an RSA, as I'll be referring to them as, and you expect them to be able to answer the questions that you might have about the product selection that you have available, the questions you have about a particular product with their specs and their features and things like that, as well as being able to recommend a product that might suit your needs and your lifestyle. And so when you go in, that's your expectation. And so for us as Google, we want to make sure that those RSAs are well equipped with that information to be able to answer that to you as a customer. The difference is with these RSAs, they're employees of these retailers. So when we try to engage with these RSAs to learn about our products, essentially they're almost like volunteers, because they don't have to listen.
Hello. I think we may have some technical issues here. TK, do you
Yeah.
have any jokes to tell while we're figuring it out?
Oh, sorry, guys. We had a little bit of technical difficulties. See, that's the problem from working from home. You just gotta
Yeah, that is true.
live with this. So, Joe,
Lynn will be joining back soon. Is everyone enjoying the event? I can hear all of you screaming, "Yay!" We have Jolynn. Woo! Welcome back.
Sorry.
No worries. Okay, let's
Nothing
go.
like technical difficulties when you're working from home. Awesome. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm back. So I was telling you about the context about the role and the audience that I work with. So the RSAs that we engage with, basically volunteers that we need to work with in that sense, where we really want them to understand our product, our information, and give us some brand love. The difficulty with this strategy, I guess, that we have is that every other brand is doing the same thing with all of these RSAs. So when you're in a Harvey Norman and you're searching for a speaker device, there's huge amounts of different brands and different qualities and different tech specs that all of these RSAs need to learn about and be able to speak to. And so all the brands are doing the same thing as what we're doing. So competing for headspace and mindshare and their hearts is really important to ensure that our strategy works and gives us the cut through that we really, really need. So the way that we do this pre-COVID was basically face-to-face sessions. So we would have an agency that we work with who we hire great people who represent our brand, and they'd go out to these shops, visit them, and run face-to-face training sessions on the spot, on the shop floor, or sometimes in the back rooms before, after hours with groups of the store there attending. So that's really how we reached all of these RSAs to ensure that we got what we needed and influence them in the right way. And then when we spoke with these RSAs, we always try to ensure that our message about our products and why we think the products are the right fit for a customer, we always ensure that we tailor it so it fits within their own sales framework. So because they are not our employees, we want to make it as easy as possible for them so it makes their job easier. So always putting the user first. So if we go to the next slide, Scott. So then obviously things in March changed, the way that we had to operate, how stores operated, and what it meant for the RSA community out there. So because stores were closing, our partners didn't know where their sales were going to come from. Things were changing left, right, and centre. For us, it meant the first thing we had to stop doing is the face-to-face training. So suddenly we weren't able to reach these RSAs and that community we so needed in the usual way that we did. So what we had to do was think about, well, who's the audience? What's happening to them? And how can we help them? How do we keep supporting them? Our main objective was really to also, how do we maintain engagement with this community? Because we didn't know how long this situation was going to play out for. And we didn't know what would happen on the other side. But what we did know was that we wanted to make sure that we were still front and center of them when they did return back to the workplace or when they had to speak with customers, because it's something that we had nurtured and we wanted to continue nurturing with them. So we had to evolve our strategy within sort of 3 weeks. So from the start of when everything was happening to our execution, we did it in a 3-week turnaround. And the way we did that was we looked internally. So we looked at, well, what do we have existing that we knew that we could leverage upon without having to start from scratch? And one was a natural. YouTube was clearly one of our products that we could leverage. And then we have an online learning platform system that we did have some engagement on, and we could continue to leverage that to reach at scale. Because when we talk about the scale of reaching these RSA community, we're looking at thousands of employees across Australia, including regional locations. So digital was the first way that we needed to be able to reach everybody where we could. The second thing we looked at was what was the talent and resources we had internally. So as I mentioned, we had a group of Google reps or through our agency, and we discovered through asking them that we actually had somebody who was a podcaster of games. We had somebody who's a live stream gamer as well. So he had all the camera equipment and green screens and all sorts of equipment ready. We had people who were graphic designers. So we were able to leverage what we had without having to start outsourcing and trying to start from scratch on different things. And then when we came up with a strategy, which ended up being 20-minute virtual training sessions through our online platform and 20-minute fun trivia sessions to test knowledge on the YouTube platform. When we designed those pieces of engagement, we looked at really what the user was going to need. So what did this RSA community need from?
Hi, I'm back again. I think we lost Jolynn. She'll be joining back soon. Let's have Paula again. Hi, Paula. You're muted.
I love what Jolene is sharing, because it's so important for us to just make fast decisions and pivot and listen to feedback and just use what I love about COVID, trying to be positive, because I'm always looking at things at the positive side, is that we had all of the solutions. Like, YouTube has always been there. And yes, once this is back to normal, we can go back to doing face-to-face, but we can't stop using this technology that Google has developed, that we all have access around the world. And I think that's been something really positive over the last few months. We're using the technology that we've been building for years, but we weren't really using. And now we're finally using. And this is what Jolene is explaining, because she's using what was already there, but none of us were using it. So very interesting.
Thanks for filling in. I'm not sure what is happening with my Wi-Fi right now, but it's just kicking me off.
Mine was a bit slow this morning as well. It was like playing up. And I spoke to some friends overseas and we're having the same issue. So something to do with the...
I'll blame it on the NBN and, all of that stuff. Thanks, Paula. So what I was saying was, with these users, some of them were working from home. Some of them were changing roles internally to help drive sales for their partners. Some of them were losing hours. So everybody was in a different mindset, a different environment, different circumstances, probably not too dissimilar to some of the people on the call today. So we had to keep that in mind when we designed those 20-minute virtual training sessions in that GRT session. So if we go to the next slide, Scott. So what we did was, when we did come up with the idea of doing those 20-minute sessions, we had to think about how are we going to get them to come onto the platform and commit 20 minutes to us. What could we offer differently to them in those 20-minute sessions? And how do we make sure that the delivery of these, we're going to be so good that we're going to hook them and ensure that they come back and that they tell more and more of their friends to come and join us on these sessions. Because for us, we wanted to scale and reach as many people as we could. So we came up with the idea of basically we played similar to Oprah and we did the you get a pixel to everybody. We gave pixels left, right and center. They joined a session, we gave them a pixel. They answered a question, we gave them a pixel. And so it was a way to build out our product ownership at the same time as incentivizing them for joining these sessions. And so we knew that, and that started to work because each week on week, we saw more and more people attending these sessions. We also knew that we had to give value to them, right? So even though they might come onto the session for us and they might get a pixel, we needed them to stay. We needed them to tell other people. We needed them to return as well. And so we had to show them value as to why they should come up onto these sessions. And the sessions were ensured that we designed it so that the content we were delivering to them was really fun, it was engaging, and it was different to what they had experienced previously in store. So they would walk away with something new, so that they would come out of the other end of the lockdown and the reduced hours with some new knowledge that they could still contribute back to their employer and back to consumers ultimately. We also knew that we could offer them something that other brands and other parts of their business couldn't offer them, and that was that community engagement. So we ensured that we used the chat function on YouTube, we used the chat function in our Google Meet sessions, and we created huge amounts of banter and just conversation, and just gave them a break from what was happening in their day-to-day roles and just kept it a really supportive, learning, really fun environment. And at the end of it, we saw people wishing people happy birthdays and asking others how they were going because they saw the repeat name. So we started to build this really nice community in that real start of COVID, I suppose. And so that's what we really did. And we started to ramp down the amount of pixels we were giving out because that wasn't a sustained way to keep engaging your audience by giving them such expensive prizes. But what we did see was that we've actually maintained that level of momentum 5 months down the track. And that's what we really hope to have achieved out from the get-go. So that was really promising to see that we gave them enough value from our content and our delivery and our engagement that has kept them coming back for more and more. And so that's really it. That's what I wanted to share with you with regards to how we made that pivot to that digital first strategy and how it's been a real success for us. I think our main takeaway was really about focusing on the user. It's a principle that Google's always lived by. We've always said focus on the user and all else will follow. And I think that was hugely true for us because we always looked at it from a user perspective and what was going to help them in this time of need. And that's where we've seen that real win for us. So if you have questions, I'm more than happy to take them, or if you want to post them in the chat or the comments, you're also welcome to do that.
Thanks, Joe. That was really, really interesting. I think one thing obviously is that the things that we're doing is Google and with Google's resources, but the interesting thing is what you put together, how it just can be replicated to any business, and that can it just makes you think who as a business, as an entrepreneur, who do I want to reach? Who is my public audience, and how do I reach that audience the best way? And then I guess the framework that you put together is what's applicable to any business, even to your academy or to the businesses that are learning from you guys. What do you think?
I think it's not just about understanding how to get their attention. You were able to engage, hook them in, and get them to bring more people in. And that's the trick. That's effective marketing. Because one thing is just getting attention. It doesn't mean they're going to buy from you or remember you. But you're able to bring them in, give them a prize, get them to come back, and get them to bring other people in. And I think that's just genius. So when Kiki told me he was going to bring you to share your strategy, I just went, this is genius. And it's so important because we know I've been studying a lot around the whole digital marketing, what to do. And events is clearly one of the best ways for us to bring people in because people want to have the human connection. Humans, they need the tribe, they need the community. We want that. And just because we're home doesn't mean that anything has changed. We need it more than ever, I think. So you've done it really well. I have a question. How did you come up with this genius idea? What methodology did you use? Did you guys brainstorm? Was it poster design thinking? Or how did you connect those dots and build that journey so effectively?
So I would say it's the power of networking, which is 100% what your school is all about, and the Holla and BGN community is about. So because we kept in contact with our counterparts in the UK and the US, some of this was actually piloted over in those countries, and we saw that and we were like, great, we can take elements of this, make it our own, and turn it into something that's really for our market. And that's how we did it.
No, very interesting. Yeah, it's all about the network. Like, I think we did an event around networking, didn't we, Kiki? It was saying that 78% of businesses succeed because of the network. And a lot of people think that entrepreneurship is about breaking the rules and innovating, but it's not. It's all about your network, understanding your customer and building the right network. And your clients are your network as well, because they're going to drive more customers.
That's right.
Yeah, and it has to be all very.
Yeah, and we maybe at the end, if we could get on the comment section, just some of you guys that have thought about who is that audience that you want to reach, who is your network, that just think about how can I improve my network, how can I, who do I want to reach, who are my customers, and when you really define those things well, I think that's when all these things are applicable that Joe described. Very cool. So I think we just want to keep it very quick. So the next 15 minutes, sorry, was there any questions from anyone? No? Perfect.
I'm going to take that as I answered every question they had.
You made it so simple to understand. Yeah. Amazing.
Even despite the Wi-Fi dropout.
Wonderful job.
Yeah, thanks. And we'll thank you, Jolene, for that amazing story that you told us, and all the work that you've done at Google, and sharing that with the entrepreneurs. So for the next session, we have an amazing speaker. Actually, it'd be me, so not so amazing, just joking. But yeah, I wanted to share with you guys some of the tips of things that we've learned on how to communicate better in an English-speaking country. And first of all, I'm going to apologize for the format, because apparently the format was stripped when I pasted my slides on this deck, but it doesn't matter because it's all about the content. So first of all, the purpose of this session is, or why are we doing this session? So English is spoken at a useful level by 1/4 of businesses worldwide. So chances are that you will be doing business in English, even if you don't end up working or staying here in Australia. So that's definitely something you should keep in mind. Scott, would you mind putting the next slide? Whoop. There we go. But yeah, so the goals for today, first of all, is going to be to apologies for the cough, hope it's not COVID, raise awareness in communicating with native speakers. And this session today is going to go both ways. So for us that we don't speak English as a first language, how can we transmit a message better? Sorry, and the other way around. And the second part of today, the second goal is going to be to provide you practical advice to achieve more impact and more quickly. Scott, would you mind 2 slides ahead, please? Yeah. So first of all, English is not a language that is spoken at the same level everywhere. So most of the people in this call, we're going to have Latin American background or some different backgrounds. And if you look at, for example, Latin America, Africa, and the Asia Pacific region, obviously excluding those countries that speak English natively, we are actually on the very low to low fluency in English language as a second language from countries that speak English as a second language. So chances are that the English that we've learned is not necessarily at the same level that the English that somebody has learned in Europe, for example, especially in Northern Europe or in South Africa. Though arguably South Africa's native tongue is English, is it? Well, I don't know. You can tell me better. But like I myself, I learned English when I was 16 years old, and my native tongue is Spanish. So there's definitely some nuances that I still don't get, and some things that disconnect the language. So first of all, we need to understand, why do these disparities in communication happen? So the main thing is that there's 5 perspectives that you need to take into account when you're communicating with anyone. The first thing is that there's information asymmetry. So no party knows everything. So when you're talking to somebody, don't assume that the other person knows what you know, because it's never the case. The second thing is relativity, which is basically how important or less important the subject is to you or someone else. So when you're selling somebody, or when you go to a big company, or like pitching for your product to be, let's say you have coconut water, you go into Woolies, you want your coconut water to be sold at Woolies, like that conversation means from 0 to 100 to you. I can guarantee it's going to mean maybe 10 to Woolies. So you have to keep that relativity in mind as well, so that you can communicate effectively. The third thing is perspective. So we have different views on topics. Biases. Obviously, we want it or not, the person that is sitting in front of us might have a bias towards us for being foreigners or non-native English speakers, and the other way around. Like you might have a bias for speaking to somebody that's from Australia, from the UK, for a man, a woman. All these subconscious bias can affect the way that you communicate. And the last thing is humanity, which basically just remember that we are not robots. So talk like you're talking to another person, especially when you're writing an email. So I think the first thing to when we're going to talk about communication in business is the first thing is things you need to assume and don't assume. So do assume good intent. So assume that the person that's sitting in front of you does have their best interest at heart. The second thing would be assume that the person in front of you is a rational, intelligent person. They're not there because they're not. So do assume that. And the third thing is that remember and assume that they are busy. So keep that's gonna have you communicate in a shorter, more succinct way. What you shouldn't assume is expert knowledge. Don't assume that they know how we like to do things. And don't assume that if they don't respond to your email, it means that they haven't read it. In a lot of cultures, it's actually even rude to reply to an email straight away. Would you do the next slide, please, Scott? Okay. And yeah, English is a hard language. Maybe not as hard as French, but it's definitely a hard language. And I'm going to give you now some of the reasons why it's hard to master, and some of the tips that we can use to overcome that when speaking in a business environment. Next slide. So the first reason why it's hard, like 20% of English is actually Germanic. So for us, like my wife is German, and I can tell you, like after a couple of years that we've been married, I still don't understand any German. For Spanish and Portuguese speakers, understanding Germanic languages is actually quite difficult. Next slide, please. But one of the main things, I love asking this when we do these events, the All Entrepreneur events, because I always get people to raise their hand in the room, those who speak Spanish and then those who speak Portuguese. And we always get about 50-50 of the room Spanish and Portuguese. And one of the things you should notice here is that English is a language where content is communicated very quickly, and it's a lot of content in a fast way. Whereas in Spanish, we take a lot of time to say something, and we use a lot of words to do that. So they always say that us Latinos, we talk a lot. We actually do talk a lot. On average, we do talk more than an English speaker to deliver the same exact message. And you will notice that consistently. For example, a Thai person will deliver a long message in very few words in a very fast manner. Next slide, please. So as said before, English is an ambiguous language. What this means is what is explicitly said, it's not necessarily what is meant. So when I say, I feel like a pizza, do you mean like, do you want to eat a pizza, or do you feel greasy and hot like a pizza? Or a lost bicycle found by house. Did the house find a bicycle, or was the bicycle found near the house? These are silly examples, but it just shows that in English, it's just really hard to deliver one message and everyone understand exactly what was meant. And that's, next slide, please. And that's where I want to leave you guys with why there's such a big difference between us non-native speakers and English native speakers. So now let's jump into some of the practical advice that have really helped me deliver these messages and these communications effectively. Obviously, when I don't have an impeding cough. Okay, one click, please. Yeah. So remove ambiguity, especially via email. So as we said before, English is very ambiguous. So always reread your emails and try to remove anything that could not be understood and make it as clear as possible. Next slide. Next slide, please. Sorry, there was some animations there. So then the next tip is keep sentences short. And this is really important, especially for us Latinos. We love saying a lot of stuff, and in the end of the day, it takes us ages to get to the point. And I'll tell you, it's way harder to write an email of 2 paragraphs with 15 words on each paragraph communicating a message than write an essay. And the reason is that, like, to synthesize is tough. It will take you longer, but it's much better. And especially when you're communicating in a country like Australia or in business English, you have to assume that people usually won't read an email that's longer than a tweet. So keep that in mind. An example here, example would be, we have increased our production capacity in each one of the factories we work with, which will allow us to fulfill your order for this month and next month forecasted stock as well. So it's just like, that's genuinely something that could be said, and that's happened. A much better way to say that exact message would be, we have increased our production capacity. As a result, we will be able to fulfill your orders for the next 2 months, period. So keep your sentences short. Next slide, please. So use fewer, simpler words. This one is really important. Simpler words part, we do feel sometimes like it's going to make us sound more intelligent or more prepared or more eloquent to say words like alternative and ameliorate or amendment, when in reality, it doesn't matter who we're talking to, especially if you're a native English speaker. If there's any chance of your email reaching somebody that's not a native English speaking person, you should always choose the simpler word to say what you want to say. So an example would be when customers sends a query to a company, hey, do you still sell blank CDs? The answer, we are currently in process of a consolidated product range to ensure that the products that we stock are indicative of our brand aspirations, blah, 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 blah. Next slide. In the end of the day, the answer should be, no, we don't, sorry. Keep it as simple as that. People don't need to know more than that. Next slide. So yeah, use fewer, simpler words. One other way to do this would be to reduce the mini words. So get, got, lot. One example would be, at the end of the day, it's up to Google's algorithms to make the final decision. It's a perfectly good sentence, but why not? Google's algorithms will make the final decision. It's much better, much shorter, less useless words, or mini words that we call them. You really, like, we use those a lot in Spanish and Portuguese. We don't need to use those in English at all. And in fact, it helps a lot to deliver an impactful message when we remove all of those from our communication. Another one would be to remove false subjects. So don't start sentences with "it is" or "there are." Just tell people what you mean. So don't say "it will be at the salsa club where we bumped into J Balvin on Tuesday." Just say "the event will be in the salsa club, blah blah blah." So just make a reference to what you're talking about. Yeah, next slide. So next slide, please, Scott. So the next, so this tip is more for native English speakers, but we do this in as non-native speakers as well. So say no to idioms. So reach out, piece of cake, sync up, break a leg. Definitely don't try to avoid those, because chances are that you're either using it incorrectly or sorry, or that the person doesn't know what it is. So it happened to me, for example, in Spanish, we say la gota que derramó el vaso, which literally translates to the drop that spilled the glass, which it makes perfect sense in my mind to say when you did too much of something and it's now a bigger issue. In English, the actual saying is the straw, what is it? The camel straw? I don't even know, but the way we say it in Spanish had nothing to do with the way that that saying goes in English. So just try to avoid that and use actual language, avoiding idioms, and that goes for both native and non-native English speakers. Next slide, please. And the next one is use helping verbs. So might, should. Sorry, don't use helping verbs, use active verbs. The goods should arrive on Tuesday. Avoid that and say we expect the goods to arrive on Tuesday. Just avoid that ambiguity that we talked about before. Next slide. And yeah, finally, next slide. Just to wrap it up, the structure and tone in the end of the day is the most important thing. So don't be afraid to use lists, especially if the list is gonna help you use fewer words. It's okay to use headings as well. So I often send an email and it'll be just bullet points. That's perfectly fine, and that really helps deliver your message in a strong way. Another way is to break down the 3 topics that you want to describe in that email and use a heading for those topics. That's totally fine if it's going to help you summarize and synthesize the themes in your email or when you're communicating as well. And when you're talking to someone, don't be afraid to start again or restate the problem. So if somebody says something, and you're not 100% sure what they meant, maybe stop them and say, "Excuse me, did you mean this or that?" And people do appreciate when that happens, because often, I think a lot of times we will take for granted that we understood take for granted that we got what the person was saying, even though there is doubt in our minds. Don't let that doubt force you to get the wrong message. Make sure that you restate the problem so that you got the actual message that wanted to be delivered. And always imagine that, when I say imagine you're talking to the person, it just means you are talking to another person, not to a robot. So just keep it, there's no need to keep it too serious. If you want to keep it colloquial, if that's your style, that's fine, but be professional and just short and synthesize. And that's it. And one last slide, saw the value of this. So this is a letter from Winston Churchill to the government, where he read, "I ask my colleagues and their staff to see it that their reports are shorter." So it's literally almost a law that he passed for his teams and for his staff, just to shorten and synthesize what they were saying. Nobody reads emails and reports that are too long with graphs and statistics and all of that. Everyone wants a short, synthesized version of that, because we are busy and everyone is. So just keep that in mind when you're communicating. That's all from me. Thank you. You can go to the next slide. Thanks, Scott. So does anyone have any questions? And I might leave it for Pau to do the questions, because I'm going to go have some cough medicine or something, because I'm half down over here.
Hello, can everybody hear me? I think one point that Kika shared, I was lucky to do university in Australia. So I moved with my family, my mom and dad and my brother to Australia. And I remember first day of university, I was studying communication. They taught us like never use 3 words when you can use 1. And it really stayed in my mind because it makes such a difference. Like time is money, the reader's time, your client's time, everything is money. So if you make it short, it's easier for the person to understand because there's less words for them to get confused with. It's also easier for you to make less spelling mistakes because us being foreigners and people like Kiki and I, they've lived in like 10 countries, it's even easier for us to make mistakes. So I think the shorter we keep, the better it is. And there's one thing that I love to share also that I learned when I was doing university, aligned to communication, is we're all a diamond born to shine, but we need to be polished. So I've seen a lot of international students going, oh, but that's the way that it works in my culture and that's the way I am, I'm not going to change. And I'm like, but you're in Australia, you need to adapt so that you can connect and contribute and we can all work together. So it's great that you're a Latino or a Latina or French with this beautiful accent, but you're in Australia right now and you want to do business in Australia. So you need to adapt to the communications in Australia. And I'm exactly like Kiki. I do everything in dot points with maximum 3 points with headings and we put bolds. And these days I'm also seeing that there's more and more images. And I recently read a very interesting article that was saying that by 2030, we were no longer going to write anything. It was all going to be on audio. And we've seen with WhatsApps and now videos. And by 2050, that generation will not be able to read fonts. They won't know the alphabet anymore, which is really scary, but we've seen it more and more, right? You go to places, people like voice recognition, and then you go like, okay, Siri, where is this? And then you get the map and you cook. I was cooking with my goddaughter the other day. She's 6 and she was talking to YouTube. She's just like, icing recipe. And I just went, what? She's just like, I don't know how to spell icing. And I just went, that is so cute. So thank you, Google, for creating all of this incredible technology that it makes it so much easier. Even like instant translation, there's so many great tools now these days, especially from Google. Google's like the leader in these tools. Yes, I think it's great. And one thing else that I love that Kika shared is the robot part. Like 2 things. We're not communicating with a robot and you can't get robots to automate your message. You need to personalize. This thing is everything automated. I was speaking to Annalise from our team this morning. Everybody's just doing like automated newsletters and automated messages and it loses all of the personalization. And do you open something when it says, dear valued partner? Of course not. But if Joe sends me a message going, hey, Paula, I would love for you to join my next training, I'll be like, I'll be there. And if she adds an even more personalized message, I would definitely be there. So yes, so no, fantastic. Thank you, Kike, once again, and Joe for sharing all of your tips. It was amazing, priceless what you guys have shared with us. I saw some cool little questions, and there was one that wasn't a question, but I really liked. It was Paulina Bravo. She posted here, customers are our best influencers. And it's so it's a previous question. I think she's posted twice, Scott. And customers are our best influencers. And Joe, what suggestions you have for us to make the most of that? Because people forget that your customers are your best marketing, your best influencers, your best referral, and there's so much power in it. Can you share with us like some more tips on how you get your RSAs to refer more people into your workshops and webinars?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to, so there's 2 things I can talk to. One, from an RSA perspective, it's that firsthand experience, right? So the more value that we continue to drive into them and the more that they understand what's in it for me, because that's by human nature that everybody first always asks themselves when somebody asks them something is, well, what's in it for me? Do I get something free? Am I going to learn something? Does that motivate me? And so that's that intrinsic side that can you appeal to. Mm-hmm. The second thing is, when I was looking into a lot of my advocacy programs that I'm looking at for Google, is I looked at case studies. And I think Lululemon and Red Bull all have great examples about how they actually leverage their existing customer base to be advocates for their brand, and they actually nurture them through similarly to influencer kind of strategy, but they'll send them products or they'll send them workshops because they're that VIP customer. So again, it's like, what's that value to that person, and then how do you leverage that? So that's what I
And that's what business is about. It's businesses solve a problem for your customer, and you're adding value by solving that problem. And that's what a lot of people also forget, because business is about, like, no one's going to come to you if they don't have a problem. You're solving a problem. We go to Google because we have a problem. We don't know where else to get the information, and Google answers it for us. And then we're in Google, it will refer to businesses that solve our problem. And that's what people need to understand. No, great. Thank you, Joe. Let me just see some other questions that we had here. Also, Emily was saying that there's 11 official languages in South Africa. Okay, there's another question from Paulina. Can you pop the question from Paulina again into the screen, Scott? So do you think in the future text in social media will be reduced to the minimum compared to the use of image and videos? People we see to read and comprehend less, or people seem to read and comprehend less and less. Oh, and then he's got to read lots. What are your thoughts
on that? I feel like we're probably already seeing it with the younger generations, where if you look on their captions on Instagram or something, it's just simply emojis with nothing else. And so my husband's younger sister is a millennial, and she just has emojis. And I mean, I find it hard to decipher, but apparently that's all of their friends understand what it all symbolizes and means. I think you're already starting to see a bit of a trend towards that, Paulina. But Paula, over to you.
I'm only concerned that you, as a business owner, you need to build a strategic marketing, you need to have a strategy behind your marketing. And the emoji currently, as far as I know, doesn't help you with the algorithm. So for social reasons, in your social media and everywhere, using emojis is great. But to market your business, the hashtags, the words that you use. And I've also noticed that when people have long messages, people want to they want to have a story behind it. So it's not just the photo. If the photo doesn't tell you the story, this is why videos are so powerful. But they want to have a story. So you can post just a photo of a sunset, but if you write a big description of the meaning of the sunset and what you're feeling, you're thinking, and you're giving back to your customer, adding value with something educational, people will read. So it's all about adding value. But yes, of course, people are writing less and less, but at the end of the day, people want to get value from what they're getting from you. So if it is you writing an extra paragraph and strategically targeting your target audience. So for example, Paulina, I'm sure that you've got a Latin American English speaking business. So maybe just play with it and mix English and Spanish in the same sentence, because our brains can understand it perfectly. So just make the most just be creative so you can really connect with your customers, definitely. Let me see if we've got any other questions. Thanks. Questions coming up. Okay, I don't think we've got any more questions. Everybody's saying really interesting. Thank you. I think we've covered all of the questions here on YouTube that I was looking at. So let's see. Oh, we've got Kiki back. How are you feeling?
Oh my God, I just went to take some cough medicine. Sorry for that, guys. I hope that the content was related properly. Just talking about technology and all of that, I was just thinking hopefully there would be an algorithm now that this whole COVID thing has kicked off, where Google kind of just does a automatic video editing to remove coughing from live stream
and everything else.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do some editing there if you want to remove my coughing from my presentation. But that last question, yeah, that last comment on the languages, it's really interesting. And sorry, Scott, I didn't catch the name of the person who put that about.
Paulina Bravo.
No, the one on Chris Go. So Chris, actually, if you want to look into there's a language conservation project by Google where we're uploading the alphabet and the words and the pronunciation for many of these dying languages in the world. It's a really beautiful project, and a lot of the native languages, especially in South America, I can tell you because I was involved in the project back there. For some of the native tribes, they're getting uploaded into the cloud and hopefully be preserved forever. And I just think it's a very cool thing. And yeah, if you're interested in that, I can see from your comment, maybe have a look. But yeah, thanks everyone. I think we're on time. But just
the
wanted
best
to,
time ever.
I know, right?
It took us 10 events to make it in time, but that's all thanks to Joe and Scott keeping us under control.
Yeah, but thank you everyone for joining who joined. Thank you, Scott, for handling all the logistics, and Joe for that incredible presentation and sharing your experience, a very valuable experience with the entrepreneurs, and obviously Pao.
We'll be applying it at Academy of Entrepreneurs, everything you guys shared today as well. So thank you. And we'll be sharing this again and again every term with all of the legends and with our community overseas as well, because we've got communities around the whole world. So I think because of the time difference, we'll have more and more watching it again. This link, Scott, that we've got on YouTube, will this link stay active, or we'll have to wait for you to send the file for us to put it on YouTube? How does it work?
This is my first ever live stream. I'm very excited about it. I do not know if you really want to stop the live stream. I think eventually I'll be able to download the video and then we can share it out to people. But I think this is, I think this is connected to your, YouTube channel. So I'm sure, you can see other content.
Okay, so perfect. So maybe it's a save then. Beautiful. You've done an awesome job, Scott. I can't believe this is the first one. It's amazing. Perfectly managed. Namaste.
All right, guys. Thank you, everyone. And we'll see you on the next one then.
See you guys. Let us know what you want to learn the next time, guys. Thank you for joining. And thank you, Googlers. You guys are the best. The best familia ever. See you soon.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Ciao.